Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session now on Advanced Tech for Governance, which will look at digitalizing the state, harnessing AI, data, and space for a resilient Zambia. With me, I've got a very good panel of people, and I'll just quickly go through. I know that some of you have made presentations, but just to remind everybody of who you are, in 20 to 30 seconds, if you can give us the relevance of your organization to the topic, just quickly go through that. I'll start with you, Zeko, Chief Information Officer at AFRIPOLI. You're the man in charge of Zambia's digital backbone, which includes the data centers and national fiber. So 20 to 30 seconds, please.
Thank you so much, Muyanga, and it's good to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. I come from Infratel. Infratel is Zambia's premium cloud services provider. We are the company that is providing a repository where data can be hosted. Whatever we have discussed today, be it space, be it smart farming, data is the product. And for us, we are providing that repository for you to have your data hosted locally here in Zambia. And also broadly, we provide connectivity through our telecommunication towers. Thank you.
Thank you. Samson, you're securing the financial backbone through your interbank clearing and payment systems. So tell us about Zeko's Zambia Electronic Clearinghouse's relevance to this topic that we're having conversation on. And for everybody's sake, Samson is the Information and Security Manager at the Zambia Electronic Clearinghouse.
Thank you very much. So the Zambia Electronic Clearing House Limited is an institution that is owned by the Bank of Zambia and all the banks operating in Zambia. And we are charged with the management or administration of the payment system, which most of you know to be the NFS. Whenever you transfer your money from Airtel to bank and vice versa, that you will get a message which says NFS transaction. So that's the national financial switch, which is the cornerstone or the backbone of the financial payment system in Zambia. Thank you.
Great. Milos and Veronica, you're experts focusing on deep cybersecurity, AI-powered fraud prevention, and digital legal protection. So tell us about ADA Institute. Yes.
So ADA Institute is a Czech company based in Prague, in Czech Republic, with operational office in Johannesburg. And we provide end-to-end cybersecurity services and compliance services, mainly focusing on trainings of companies, people across all organizational levels. And we focus on building of capacities and knowledge in cybersecurity.
Yeah, I will maybe add that we provide end-to-end cybersecurity and compliance, going from penetration testings through red team simulations up to the monitoring after and making the aftermath. And maybe I would also add that we perceive that Zambia's digitalization has grown very fast, and we perceive cybersecurity as a core instrument how to prevent attacks and how to keep it safe. So how to keep the business safe. Thank you.
Great. And finally, Peter Bohacek from AFRIPOLI or TRL Group. You're coming in from the space dimension, Earth observation, drones, and AI-based intelligence. Great.
I would say that all these connect to overall digitalization of not only public but also private services and operations. And without tools from AI to different interfaces and approachable user interfaces, we won't be able to manage big chunks of data. So that's where we come in, and that's what we try to make sense from big amounts of data.
Great. So the future of Zambian governance and commerce is digital, but this transition brings two massive needs: resilience from a security side, and intelligence from a data-driven decisions. Our discussion is about moving technology from a cost center to a strategic competitive advantage. So let's start our conversation with cyber resilience, securing the digital foundation, and bring it back to Zambia, and starting off with Zambia and where we are. Zeko and Samson, you manage the country's most critical shared ICT and financial assets. If you break down, we are all marching to your buildings. And what is the single biggest evolving cyber threat you face today, and how is the shared infrastructure model helping or complicating your defensive strategies?
Thank you so much, moderator. I'll pick it first before Samson takes it up. So coming from Infratel, where we are offering a shared data center and co-location model, yes, cyber threats are ever increasing. When we look at our statistics, day by day, month on month, we are seeing definitely a rise in cyber threats. Of course, there are quite many. We'll be talking of business email compromise, we'll be talking of ransomware, we'll be talking of malware. A lot of technical terms can come up. But the one thing that we are observing as something that needs to be worked on, it's basically institutions being able to work together, being able to have shared intelligence. When you look at cyber attackers, they do not choose whether you are in the tourism sector, you are in the medical sector, you are in the space sector, you are a target. And to them, the sector doesn't matter, for as long as there's value that they can derive. But when we look at ourselves as sectors, we are not collaborating enough. Institutions in the tourism sector, in the health sector, they are not harnessing that intelligence together so that defensive structures are built. Remember, global threat intelligence, leveraging on AI, needs to come in, and for that to come in, institutions need to have a shared model in terms of how they approach security. So you're talking of our shared infrastructure model. I'll tell you one thing. Our shared infrastructure model is beginning to draw a message that we can actually work together from one location. We can have workloads housed in one data center, and we all benefit from the various components around it. And that goes also to security. Remember, I think as a people, we are not good at sharing. I think naturally we want to keep what we have to ourselves. And this cannot continue to thrive. For us to be winners in the cybersecurity space, we need collaboration in the space of cybersecurity.
Thank you very much, Zeko, for that elaboration. I'll just pick it up from there. As I had earlier on mentioned that we, Zekio, or the Zambia Electronic Clearing House Limited, run the most critical system in the financial sector. That system does not choose who might be affected if compromised, because I believe all of you have Airtel money where you've kept something. All of you have bank accounts where you have kept something that belongs to yourself personally and to you as an institution. So that is the criticality of the system that we manage. It is a shared system. Maybe to put it into perspective, all financial institutions that you think of are compelled by the National Payment System Act that they need to connect to that particular system. All banks connect to that system, and all fintechs that you will think of when you go to ShopRite, you swipe, you pay using mobile money, all that is coming through with support of the National Financial Switch. That is why when you go to each and every ATM, you will see a sticker which says, a member, proud member of the NFS. So that is how critical that the system is, or that's how critical the system is. Now, having said that, just think of what would happen if that system went down. So if you individually, your Airtel money is not able to function properly, you will make noise. Just think of a day when you cannot send money to your relatives, especially across banking systems. So what risks do we face? What threat do we face? Like Zeko had mentioned, you know, these threats, you will find at some point they converge. So we may be facing the risk of malware, the risk of ransomware. So I gave you the perspective of how the whole platform is structured. So all the other financial institutions that transact, be it a bank or a fintech, they connect to that system. Now, for the banks, they may have matured security-wise because they have the appetite to spend in order to safeguard their systems. But if you look at the fintechs, maybe for those that do not understand, I'll just give an example. You may have heard of Kazang, you may have heard of Zona, so all those are fintechs. So we provide that particular platform. So most of the fintechs might not be, so I'm using the word might not be, they might not have matured. And as they come to this platform, they may come with risks associated with their systems. Okay, so we have this third-party risk which we face, and this third-party risk may come with all the other threats that we talked about, like malware. So, in short, if Bank A is compromised, there is a very high chance that Bank B might be compromised because they are passing through a common infrastructure, which is the National Financial Switch. So that is how critical this is. And whether our strategies are working, there are strategies that strategies and guidelines that have been put in place for all those wishing to join or to operate as a financial institution in Zambia, as they connect their benchmarks that we have set to say you must have this at minimum. But that may not be sufficient because at joining, they may demonstrate that this is how far we can go in safeguarding the common infrastructure. But as you know, time goes, they tend to relax. So that is where we may say there could be failure, and we are glad that this platform is there for us to tap into the knowledge and the technology that our colleagues have brought. I hope that settles the matter.
Yeah, no, it helps to paint a picture. And with that picture coming to you, Milos and Veronica, given the foundation described by Zeko and Samson, starting with you, Milos, critical assets, potential capacity gaps, where does AI-powered cybersecurity and advanced fraud prevention offer the most immediate practical value for Zambia right now? Is it in detection, prevention, or recovery?
Thank you for the question. It's all three. Cybersecurity requires focus on people, technology, and management systems. So if one of them doesn't work, cybersecurity can't work properly. We have, or we did analysis in one bank in financial sector, which was attacked by cyber ransomware a year ago, and we realized that the biggest problem and the biggest issue is, of course, the human knowledge. So the prevention of trainings of the company people is very important to prevent the cyber attacks. Of course, very important is also the sharing of knowledge. No, the companies doesn't share the information about the cyber attacks through the systems. So it's one of the problem, also the issue that we realize that are in this cybersecurity landscapes. So that's why we are focusing on training of the people, because it's the first step and the main step how to protect the data in the company. If you want to, Veronica, add something?
Yes,
yeah.
I've got a couple of Czech proverbs also to add. Proverbs appear to be popular at this conference. So first of them is better is prevention than correction. So this is something that applies basically to cybersecurity very well, and also that the company is only as strong as its weakest link, and which is also related to cybersecurity as well. As far as my co-panelist is concerned, I couldn't agree with them more, actually, because we perceive a great need of creating a national cybersecurity readiness framework. Basically, we perceive Zambia as a hub of innovation, as an amazing place where we could, where the digitalization is at a very high level, but hand to hand with that, we must really see also protection and securization, which means, which includes evaluation of risks and security protection, and then of course proving that it works and working with management in order to go forward. Maybe I didn't mention yet, I haven't mentioned it yet. Before we used to view and look at cybersecurity as a problem of big institutions and big governmental entities. But with the growth of AI nowadays, they basically create assistants working for them as well, those hackers. So basically no middle or little business is little enough for them as long as there is money. So the threat is really everywhere now, basically, and therefore I would like to emphasize that protection and cybersecurity awareness is important, not only for big companies, but also for smaller ones.
Coming back to you, Veronica, do you think that we need to make any adjustments or additions towards legal and technical standards in addressing the regulatory and trust perspective with regards to security?
So as far as I'm aware of current implementation of Cybersecurity Act and Cyber Crimes Act, as well as some electronic, sorry, and some Electronic Transfers Act in Zambia, definitely you've got a nice legal frame to start with. The important thing is to really support this with a proper training. There is this ISO standard 27001, which basically is some kind of implement security measurements, like best practice, that everyone knows what to do, that they know how to behave, how to detect a dangerous item. Very popular ways how to interfere into system is that some hacker leaves there some USB key, and this USB key has a malware, and some employee just by random tries to push it into the PC. I remember there was one of examples that we made, right? It was a test, how likely this happens, and it really happens almost every time, you know. So it's really important when employees of a company know how to behave, know what to avoid, and then it's much easier to prevent this kind of attacks.
Bringing into the conversation, Peter, and let's talk about data-driven governance and which is the intelligence layer. Your TRL group uses satellites, drones, and AI to gather intelligence. Can you give us a concrete Zambian example, perhaps in agriculture, infrastructure monitoring, or flood response, of how this geospatial intelligence turns data into an actionable policy decision for the government?
Thank you very much for that question. I think there's plenty, and the panel is not long enough to pick out all of them. So,
unfortunately,
maybe to mention a few that I have come across specifically in Africa. There's a lot of paperwork, bureaucracy and all this framework that we have developed in Europe that now seems completely obsolete when you can use and bypass it, or leapfrog, as we say, with remote sensing technologies. For example, all the cadastral services that we have developed that started on paper and maybe later developed into aerial campaigns where you had to fly across the whole country, taking photography and putting that on the paper and the records, enabled us to gradually build cities, plan them, but when you don't have this whole thing and you're starting from scratch, as you are in some of the countries here, you can just bypass this whole bureaucracy thing. You can bypass aerial campaigns, which will take forever. It will cost millions to fly planes across these places, and you can just implement simple solution, web-based solution, where you're just getting rid of all this documentation. So we see that a lot of one of the fastest growing cities are across Africa. It's just impossible to keep track of new developments through the traditional paperwork and other ways to keep track of cadastral changes. So that's one thing where you can just simply use remote sensing and satellite technologies and publicly available imagery to know how urbanization is changing, how different constructions are happening, and just keep track of things without spending too much time to not do it. And it's not only about cities; it's about roads. You don't need to have patrols going across the country and understanding where there are holes in the pavement and where there's some issues with the infrastructure. You can use satellite imagery, and if you see there's something wrong, you can also use drone imagery to feed it into one system. And it all sounds simple, but in all that big data, you have to be able to navigate yourselves. You have to be able to extract what you need, and that is really one of the things that where AI comes into place. And right now, in the last year or so, when everyone has been using ChatGPT, I think we're now seeing the user interface of AI, but there's so many other things behind that we do not see. The chat function is really just like a user interface now that we introduced this. And that doesn't have to be only for ChatGPT. That can be also for geospatial information, for remote sensing, and for any other system and database that you have. You just don't need to go through the frameworks and even through the databases on your computer. You can have and use this AI chat function to really go through the data and give you the information, because otherwise the data is futile.
Great. We lost 20 minutes of the interview because we're chasing for time this afternoon. So I'm going to go quickly into, and I know there's a lot we could have discussed with regards to partnerships, talents, and sustainability. But I'll give you some time to speak on that in your closing remarks. So if you could give your most important takeaways about the opportunity that exists to forward Zambia as a digital hub for the continent, or forward Zambia as a digital, as a regional point for the continent, and what the partnerships and talent, the talent that you need to be able to achieve that from your perspectives. I'll start with Samson as your closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I think looking at the nature of the infrastructure that we safeguard, the risks have evolved and they are chasing towards AI-based risks. So in the area of AI, I think that is where we think we could tap into that capacity building, AI use, and its security. So that is an opportunity for us. I think that is what I can say.
Great. Zeko?
Thank you so much. So I think for me, we need to organize our data. We cannot talk about artificial intelligence if our data is not as well organized. We need to have quality data. So we really need to get back into our data governance plans. And this goes to different sectors. Because when we talk of these emerging technologies, we're talking of data from the health sector, data from the agri sector. I think we've seen, different sectors being represented here. So all that data really needs to be actually worked out. And beyond that also, we need to look at which data set can be shared and which one should not be shared. We must be moving towards some form of open data, because if data becomes open, it will drive innovation. Because remember, it doesn't help you have digitized all your data and it can only be used only by internal people within your company. So there should be some data set that should be exposed so that innovation can be driven. As my last takeaway point that we must go with, when we look at AI, it cutters across different sectors like I indicated. We need a platform where different professionals should be able to work together, should be able to collaborate, so that we get to build that knowledge base where we can benefit from. There's a talk for artificial general intelligence. Basically what that means, we'll have one agent that can be a doctor, that can be a moderator, when called upon, it can be a lawyer. So we are moving towards that. But remember, I saw something today. Whatever we are seeing with systems, it starts with structures being built today. Do we have a place where we can go today and find doctors, and find nutritionists, and find nurses collaborating together? Maybe it's Bongo Hive. I think you can actually tell me whether there's that place where different people are working together to have ideas brought together, incubated, and commercialized.
Thank you. Peter?
I would like to reiterate what has been said this morning at the panel, that we should not be reinventing the wheel. I think we're good at building partnerships a lot of times, but as said today on this panel, we're not as good at sharing, and maybe we're not as good as building partnerships maybe internally, because a lot of the times when it comes to data and remote sensing data, we see in many countries that the different institutions are not sharing the data together. They're all doing their own thing. And even within individual ministries, sometimes you have different departments getting their own remote sensing data, working in silos, and not speaking to each other, and just creating huge costs and additional costs, and limiting their own capabilities of how they can utilize the data. Because data and any technology can only be used well if you know how to use it and if you put it in a structure. So I would definitely also reiterate that we need to approach it right. We need to approach it with a clear vision and strategy, how to make the best use of it. Otherwise, it's going to become rather burden than a help.
Thank you very much. Veronica?
Thank you. I agree that sharing information is one of the key factors how to make things work when it comes to digitalization and to security of the data and potentially the money and the business. I would say that when Zambia services go digital, the security of Zambia should also go digital. And that we will do our best to help if possible. And I would also emphasize that digital infrastructure is there to drive both investments and technologies, and what people really need is trust and confidence into the system, trust that these protection services will work and work properly. And I wish we find possibilities to join our forces together and create really something meaningful for Zambia when it comes to cybersecurity, and support you in thriving your businesses that already are. Thank you.
Yes, I agree what was already said. I would like to mention that the segmentation of the data are very important. So sharing the data is very useful. Just you have to know for what you want to, what is the purpose of the sharing of the data. But anyway, the sharing of all information needed, the knowledge it's very, very important for growing of everybody.
Yeah, and in closing, I think the opportunity is here for us to start the collaboration. I think with the Infratel and the National Financial Switch through Zircle, working with ADA for their security, and then having access, like we've talked about, access to data, the data that is provided by you, Peter from AFRIPOLI, and the various startups that are here, so that we can make even more intelligent decisions. Thank you very much, everybody. I realize this is what happens when you give geeks the platform, but I hope it made sense. Thank you.